Hi, welcome back. Don't throw out those old brown coins just yet. Some Australian 2-cent pieces are hiding in plain sight, and they could be worth thousands of dollars. First up, 1968 2-cent coin, low mintage. Let's begin our journey in the year 1968, a time when decimalization was still relatively new in Australia, and citizens were slowly adapting to the modern currency system. The Australian 2-cent coin, introduced just 2 years prior in 1966, was already a staple of everyday transactions. But the 1968 issue, though often overlooked, is now regarded as one of the most important dates in the 2-cent series, and for good reason. In that year, the Royal Australian Mint produced just over 16.9 million 2-cent coins. While that may sound like a large number to casual observers, it is actually the second lowest mintage in the entire 2-cent coin series, especially when compared to the hundreds of millions minted in earlier and later years. But mintage is only part of the story. The 1968 2-cent coin features the familiar, gliding frill-necked lizard, designed by Stuart Devlin, a masterful artist responsible for many of Australia's most iconic coin designs. On the obverse, we see the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, sculpted by Arnold Machine, which would remain in use until the mid-1980s. The design is clean, distinctive, and timeless. However, what makes the 1968 2-cent coin particularly compelling to collectors is not just its low production. It's the extremely limited number of high-grade examples that survive today. Many of these coins were released directly into circulation and saw decades of heavy use, passing through countless hands, shops, and coin jars. As a result, finding a 1968 2-cent coin in uncirculated or mint state condition is remarkably difficult. Most surviving examples are worn, scratched, or otherwise damaged, which adds even greater value to well-preserved coins. For serious collectors trying to build a complete high-grade 2-cent set, the 1968 issue is an early and frustrating obstacle. High-grade specimens, those graded MS65 and above, are in incredibly short supply. On the rare occasions they appear in auctions or private sales, they can fetch anywhere from $15,000 to over $16,000 UD, depending on eye appeal, luster, and strike quality. If the average person glances at this coin, they may see just another brown copper piece from decades ago. But seasoned numismatists know that this date is a true sleeper rarity, a coin that hides its value in plain sight. In fact, some collectors argue that if more people understood how few high-quality examples exist, the price could easily double. So, if you're looking through old coin jars or inherited collections, keep an eye out for 1968, a crisp, original example of this humble-looking 2-cent coin. Could be the crown jewel of your copper collection. Number 2, 1983, 2-cent coin, scarce and high grade. Now we jump ahead to 1983, a year that marked the beginning of change in the Australian monetary landscape. Though millions of 2-cent coins were still in active circulation, there was already talk behind the scenes about their future. Unbeknownst to the public, these small copper coins were slowly inching toward eventual withdrawal. In this transitional period, the Royal Australian Mint continued its regular production of the 2-cent coin. But interestingly, the 1983 2-cent issue has quietly become one of the more difficult dates to locate in pristine condition. With a reported mintage of around 66 million, it doesn't immediately appear to be rare. But again, the challenge lies not in its quantity, but in its quality of survival. You see, 1983 was a year of very poor strike quality for many Australian decimal coins across multiple denominations, including the 1-cent, 2-cent, and even 5-cent coins. Collectors have noted a tendency for soft details, weak rims, and dull luster. Combine that with heavy circulation and a general lack of interest in preserving coins at the time, and you have a perfect storm for scarcity. Today, most 1983 2-cent coins are found in heavily worn condition, showing flattened lizard scales, worn legends, and dulled surfaces. Even coins taken from circulation after just a few years exhibit significant wear. But a true mint state example, with sharp detail, full mint luster, and zero contact marks, those are truly rare. In fact, some collectors consider the 1983 issue to be one of the top 3 most difficult 2-cent coins to find in MS65 or higher. If you were to send one for professional grading and it came back as MS66 or MS67, you're likely holding a coin worth $1,000 to $25,000 AUD, depending on demand and market timing. These pieces are often snapped up immediately by serious decimal collectors, who know just how uncommon they are. The coin's design remains consistent, the beloved frill-necked lizard on the reverse, and Queen Elizabeth II's familiar profile on the obverse. But it's the story of hidden scarcity and quality rarity that makes this coin stand out from the pack. So while millions of 1983 200 coins may still exist in junk drawers and coin jars, the number of truly pristine survivors is vanishingly small. If you ever come across one in near-perfect condition, consider it a modern copper treasure. Number 3. 1949 200 coin Scarce Maku portrait debut. The year 1985 may seem unremarkable at first, but in the world of Australian coinage, it marked the beginning of a new artistic era. That year saw the debut of Raphael Makluf's portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse of Australian coins, replacing the long-standing Arnold, machine effigy that had been in use since decimalization in 1966. For the 2-cent coin, the 1985 issue is especially noteworthy. Not only does it carry this first-year Makluf obverse, but it was also produced in limited quantity, with just under 45 million coins struck. Now again, that number might sound high, but much like the 1983 issue, the real challenge for collectors is in finding a pristine example. The 1985 2-cent coin was struck during a time of economic conservatism and declining coin preservation habits. Most people didn't think of decimal coins as collectibles, especially small denominations, like the 2-cent. As a result, very few 1985 coins were saved in uncirculated condition by the general public. What's more, the 1985 coins seem to suffer from even worse strike quality than 1983. Many have weak detail on the lizards, frill and face, ghosting on the rim, and very little surface shine. The copper-nickel alloy used during this period also tended to tone quickly, leaving many coins with dull, blotchy finishes even if they weren't circulated. A gem uncirculated 1985 2-cent coin with blazing luster, no contact marks, and crisp strikum is a real rarity. These are prized by advanced collectors, trying to complete full decimal sets in high grade. As of today, an MS-66 example can sell for $15,000 to $23,000 AUD, and MS-67 or above can push even higher at auction. If the eye appeal is exceptional, the scarcity isn't just anecdotal, it's reflected in population, reports, and real market activity. But this coin is special not just because of its rarity. It's a symbol of transition, the old machine era giving way to a new royal representation. Makluf's design brought a more mature, softer expression to the Queen's image, a design that would last into the early 1990s. That subtle change marks a moment in time, a new chapter in Australia's coinage legacy. And when it comes to the 2-cent series, the 1985 issue stands proudly as one of the most difficult and desirable modern pieces, blending artistry, history, and rarity into one small copper canvas. Number 4, 1966, 2-cent coin, first year of issue. When Australia transitioned from the pound to the dollar on the 14th of February 1966, it was more than just a change in currency, it was a shift in national identity. And leading that charge were a brand new suite of decimal coins, including the now iconic 2-cent coin, which made its debut that same year. The 1966 2-cent coin is historically significant as the very first year of issue. It marked the beginning of decimal coinage in Australia, and for that reason alone, it holds a special place in the hearts of collectors. Over 217 million 2-cent coins were struck. In 1966, an enormous quantity, making it far from rare in raw numbers. However, this coin's value and importance lie in its historical context, design quality, and unique minting quirks. Designed by the renowned Stuart Devlin, the reverse features the instantly recognizable frilled neck lizard, a native Australian species captured mid-motion in stunning detail. On the obverse is the Arnold machine portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, youthful and dignified. It represents the face of a modern monarchy stepping into a decimal future. Because 1966 coins were distributed in huge numbers for mass circulation, most examples today are heavily worn. They passed through millions of hands during their peak usage in the 1970s and 1980s. That makes uncirculated examples, especially with full red luster, a prize worth seeking. But there's more, and a small percentage of these coins exhibit striking variations in planche issues due to the mint's adjustment period to new processes. Some collectors have reported examples with weak strikes, die cracks, or minor off-center errors, all of which can fetch premiums depending on their clarity and severity. An uncirculated 1966 2-cent coin, if it has full detail and is free of marks, can fetch $24,000 to $31,000 AUD, while any coin with an unusual error could command upwards of $35,000 or more, depending on the market and its uniqueness. More than just copper and design, the 1966 2-cent coin is a milestone. It was the very first, a moment where the past met the future, and it continues to stand tall as the foundation of one of Australia's most beloved coin series. Number 5. 1967. 2-cent coin Perth Mint with die variations. The year 1967 saw the second release of Australia's 2-cent coin, but unlike the inaugural issue, from 1966, this one comes with some hidden surprises that make it especially desirable among sharp-eyed collectors. While the majority of 2-cent coins were struck at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, a significant number of 1967 dated coins were actually produced at the Perth Mint, and these can be identified by subtle die and strike differences, even though they carry no visible mint mark. Perth Mint coins in 1967 were often struck with sharper relief, and some show slightly more rounded lettering or heavier frill detailing on the lizard. Over time, collectors have developed a keen eye for identifying the Perth-struck varieties, often relying on edge sharpness, coin orientation, and metal flow lines under magnification. Although over 26.6 million 2-cent coins were struck in 1967, high-grade Perth Mint varieties are far scarcer than their Canberra counterparts. That's especially true for those with full original luster or minimal bag marks. To make things even more interesting, several minor die variations have been documented from this year. Some 1967 coins show small die cracks around the rim, cut errors, metal blobs from die breakage on the lizard's neck or tail, filled dies resulting in smoothed out or missing detail. While none of these are officially categorized as major errors, they're still heavily pursued by specialists in decimal coin varieties, and they can add significant premiums to the value. A pristine 1967 2-cent coin, especially a confirmed Perth Mint strike with strong details, can easily sell for $7,500 to $15,000. UDI and MS65 or higher. Add in a visible die variation or cud, and you may be looking at $2,000 or more, depending on the buyer. Ultimately, the 1967 issue is more than just the second year of decimal coinage. It's a hidden playground for collectors, with enough nuances to keep even experienced numismatists hunting. If you're looking to build a set that stands out, this coin, particularly in Perth Mint form, is an essential prize. Number 6. 1981, 2-cent coin, Yantrisant Mint, UK, issue. The year 1981 was an unusual and fascinating one for Australian coin production. That year, due to increasing demand and limited domestic capacity, the Royal Australian Mint contracted coin production overseas. And for the 2-cent coin, this led to some of the most intriguing issues ever struck. In 1981, a portion of the 2-cent coin, mintage was produced not in Australia, but in Llantrisant, Wales, at the British Royal Mint. Although these UK minted coins carry no special mint mark, they differ slightly in design and strike, making them distinguishable to trained collectors. So how can you spot one? Llantrisant strikes often exhibit a shinier, smoother surface due to different planche preparation, sharper inner detail, especially in the queen's hair and the lizard scales, slightly smaller or more uniform rims compared to Canberra strikes. The decision to outsource minting was purely practical. The Royal Australian Mint needed to meet demand for all circulating denominations, and subcontracting was the only way to keep up. But the result was a coin that, while common in appearance, became a collector's niche pursuit. Of the 60 million plus 2-cent coins minted in 1981, a significant portion came from Llantrisant, but identifying them without a mint mark makes it a subtle challenge. Collectors rely on side-by-side comparisons, die diagnostics, and even metallurgy testing in rare cases. Now here's where it gets interesting. Some 1981 coins from the UK Mint exhibit striking errors. A few are known with off-center strikes, broadstrikes without rims, or planche flaws from metal inconsistencies in the UK production batch. These errors, when certified and confirmed, can command $22,000 to $24,000 AUD or more at auction, especially when the coin can be directly tied to the Llantrisant output. Even without errors, a top-grade UK-struck 1981 coin in MS66 or MS67 condition is worth a solid $8,000 to $12,000 AUD, particularly among decimal collectors building specialist sets. So while the 1981 2-cent coin may look like every other brown copper piece at a glance, it's actually a key to international minting history. Proof that sometimes Australia's coins have a global backstory. If you ever find one that stands out in shine, strike, or detail, you may just be holding a small piece of coinage diplomacy. Number 7. 1988 2-cent coin, low mintage return. By 1988, Australia was commemorating its bicentennial year 200 years since the first fleet arrived, shaping the continent's colonial story. But behind the headlines and celebrations, the humble 2-cent coin quietly made a rare return to circulation minting, a subtle yet valuable event in the eyes of collectors. You see, no 2-cent coins had been struck for general circulation since 1985. In both 1986 and 1987, 2-cent pieces were issued only in mint and proof sets. Not for everyday use, but in 1988, the Royal Australian Mint produced only 13.8 million of these coins for general use, making it one of the lowest mintage circulation issues in the series. This low production number is what makes the 1988 2-cent coin so valuable today, particularly in pristine condition. Now here's where it gets interesting. These coins were made during a time of declining demand. Retailers and banks weren't requesting as many 1C and 2C coins anymore, and inflation had eroded the coin's usefulness. So despite being minted for circulation, many 1988 2-cent coins never saw widespread use, and some were even stored or melted down in later years. Those that did enter circulation were typically overlooked and heavily used, just like their earlier counterparts. So finding one in mint state condition, untouched by circulation wear and copper oxidation, is an exceptional challenge. A coin with full red luster, no bag marks, and a sharp strike can fetch $9,000 to $11,000 IUD, depending on demand. What makes this coin even more attractive to collectors is its role as the beginning of the end. It's the second last circulation issue for the 2-cent denomination, and its return after a 3-year hiatus gives it a sense of rarity and historical significance. The lizard remains the same, proud, frilled, and detailed, and Queen Elizabeth II appears with the Raphael Maku portrait, bringing a graceful maturity to the obverse. If you're building a date set, this is one of the hardest years to find in perfect condition. It may not have had a long time in circulation, but it had a brief window, and many were simply lost to time. Today, the 1988 2-cent coin is a silent sleeper, waiting to surprise a lucky collector with its unexpected value. Number 8. 1989 2-cent coin, final year of circulation issue. The year 1989 marked a quiet farewell for one of Australia's smallest and most loved coins. The 2-cent piece, once a vital part of everyday transactions, was now facing obsolescence. Inflation had rendered it nearly useless, and many retailers had already stopped accepting them in bulk. But before it bowed out, the coin made one final appearance, and collectors have never forgotten it. The 1989 2-cent coin is historically important as the last year it was minted for circulation. After this point, the denomination would only appear in special mint sets, and eventually, it would be completely withdrawn from the Australian monetary system. With a circulation mintage of just 31.6 million, the 1989 issue isn't the lowest in the series, but it holds extraordinary collector value for one reason: it represents the end of an era. It's the last frilled neck lizard to roam freely through shops, schools, and supermarkets. The final copper coin of its kind to be handed over for lollies, postage, or newspapers. And because most Australians had no idea this would be the last issue, very few were saved in pristine condition. Most 1989 coins were used, tossed in jars, or eventually melted down in government cleanup programs. Today, finding a perfect, uncirculated 1989 2-cent coin is a real challenge. MS-65 and above examples are incredibly scarce, and even lower-grade uncirculated coins hold premium value. You can expect prices in the range of, say, $500 to $2,500 AUD, depending on color, luster, and surface quality. From a collector's point of view, this coin is a must-have. Not because it's flashy or rare in error, but because it's a bookend, the final punctuation mark in a series that lasted 23 years. Owning it is like holding the last page of a beloved story. If you ever come across a shiny 1989 2-cent piece, know this: you're holding a farewell, a quiet, dignified exit from Australia's pocket change history. Number 9. 1985. 2-cent coin, obverse clipped plancher error. Now we move into the fascinating world of mint errors. And one of the most intriguing is the clipped plancher error, particularly known on the 1985 2-cent coin. For those unfamiliar, a clipped plancher error occurs during the blanking process at the mint. When metal sheets are punched to create coin blanks, if the punch overlaps the edge of the sheet or a previously punched hole, it can result in a coin with a missing section, usually curved, crescent-shaped, and immediately visible. These errors are not specific to the 1985 year, but examples from 1985 are especially sought after due to two factors. 1. The rarity of high-quality 1985 coins, and the transition to the Maku portrait, meaning fewer coins were being inspected and saved that year. A clipped plancher, 1985 2-cent, coin offers more than just an error. It tells the story of mint machinery, quality control, and chance. Each error is unique, with varying degrees of clipping, making them tiny numismatic snowflakes. Collectors prize these coins because they break the mold, literally. While a standard 1985 2-cent coin in uncirculated condition can fetch $15,000 to $3,000, an example with a strong visible clipped plancher error can double that, reaching $4,000 to $6,000 AUD or more, especially if the clip is dramatic and the coin remains uncleaned. These are coins you'll never forget once you see one. A clean crescent bite taken from an otherwise perfect copper coin. And because they were not intended to circulate, many were destroyed, making known examples extremely rare. If you're lucky enough to find one, in a dealer's stock, in an old mint bag, or among inherited coin trays, know this: you've found a collector's dream. A combination of error, scarcity, and visual wow factor, all rolled into one reddish-brown masterpiece. Number 10. 1981 2-cent coin, Broadstrike or Offcenter errors. Finally, we arrive at one of the most exciting and eye-catching coin varieties in the entire Australian 2-cent series, the 1981 Broadstrike and Offcenter error coins. These errors occur during the minting process when the coin blank is not properly centered within the striking collar. When the die comes down, instead of producing a neat, rimmed coin, it strikes off center, creating a coin that looks distorted, stretched, or slightly shifted. In the case of Broadstrikes, the collar fails to hold the coin in place completely, resulting in a coin that is wider and flatter than normal, often with a blurred or pancaked appearance near the rim. These errors are immediately noticeable and visually striking. The 1981 2-cent coin is known to exhibit these kinds of errors more than most, likely due to the fact that the Royal Australian Mint was under pressure and had outsourced some production to the UK. The increased production volume and unfamiliar equipment likely led to a rise in striking anomalies. Collectors love these errors because they're rare, dramatic, and easy to explain, making them excellent for display or resale. They also serve as physical proof of how coin minting can go wrong, and just how beautiful those mistakes can be. A genuine Offcenter or Broadstrike 1981 2-cent coin in great condition can fetch anywhere from $55,000 to over $8,000 AUD, depending on the severity of the error and the overall grade. If the queen's portrait or the frilled lizard is partially off the plancher but still clear, the coin becomes especially desirable. These coins are extremely rare, and their unique appearance ensures they won't be forgotten. They're not just currency, they're collectible artwork born from error. So if you're lucky enough to find one, you're not just holding a mistake. You're holding one of the most valuable and unusual 2-cent pieces ever created. Still holding on to a few old 2-cent coins? You might be sitting on a hidden treasure. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Australia's most valuable copper coins, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment with your favorite year, and hit subscribe for more rare coin stories every week. Don't forget to check your change, because the next big discovery could be right in your pocket. Thanks for watching and happy collecting.